Hello, this is Alex from phpacademy.org, and this is a video tutorial for the new Boston. In this video I'm going to be talking about logical operators. Now, we've already seen examples of comparison operators, arithmetic operators, and assignment operators. So we've assigned variables, we've compared them. Now what happens if we want to use a bit of logic to maybe say want to check a few variables at once if they compare to different values? Now the best way to explain this is to create an example. So if I was to create a number here, number 1 equals 10. Now what I want to do is I want to create an if statement here with the block, and inside here I want to say number 1 greater than or equal to 10. Now echoing out this would be true, so we've evaluated this to true. Number 1 is equal to 10, so when we refresh in our browser we get true echoed out. However, let's say we want to check at say an upper and a lower bounds. We've already seen examples like this where we've simply made a comparison check, but let's apply some logic into this. I'm going to create a variable called upper, and this is going to be 1000, and my lower is going to be 500. Oh, make sure we assign that there. My lower limit is going to be 500. Now what I want to do is I want to, let's change this text to let's say OK. I want to test whether a specific number supplied, which could be up here, is equal or is between 1000 and 500. So I want this number to be either 1000, 500, or somewhere in between. So it could be 505, or it could be 999.9. It could be 1000, it could be 500, but it can't be under 500, so it can't be 497, or it can't be 1001, for example. So this number at the moment is 1. Let's put it in within our boundaries. So I'm going to say 654, which is between 500 and 1000. Now how are we going to make this check? Now in PHP we have logical operators. We have and, we have or we have not. Now I'm not going to discuss the not in this tutorial in depth. I might come into it, but we're definitely going to be discussing the and or the or. Now and or can be written in a few ways. We can write and like this with a double ampersand symbol, or we can write it and. You can see it's turned blue as well. It doesn't have to be in capitals, but it just makes everything easier to see. Or is either two vertical lines, they're also known as pipes, so they're on your keyboard, or you can just simply, you probably guessed, write or. So we need to think logically, and we need to think in plain English a lot of the time whenever we program anything. So I need to say, is this number greater than or equal to 500, which is the lower variable, and is it less than or equal to upper? So you probably guessed. Let's start writing this out and speaking in English as we go. So I'm going to say if number is greater than or equal to lower, and, so let's space this out a bit, and number is less than or equal to upper, so it has to be greater than or equal to 500, and it has to be less than or equal to 1000. So in this case we'll echo out OK if that's the case. So let's refresh and see what happens. Okay, we're left with the, well, we're printing out or echoing out OK. So what happens if we now change this number to 999.999, for example? Let's refresh. We're still being produced in our browser with OK. It's still telling us it's OK. So this statement is still evaluating to true. Now what happens if we say, let's just say 10,000, okay? So, or 10,500. This is obviously greater than 1,000, so we should be left with the alternative, which will be to display nothing because we don't have our else on the end. So if we refresh, you can see nothing's displayed. So this has worked really, really well. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm just going to use a bit of concatenation inside here, and I'm going to say number must be between space lower, and then I'm going to concatenate on some text and with a space either side, and upper. Okay, so this is going to read number must be between lower and upper. In fact, no, that needs to go in our else part, obviously, because if that doesn't evaluate to true, otherwise, okay. Okay, so the way it works is if this evaluates to true, we're saying okay. Otherwise, we're telling the user the lower and the upper bounds of the number. So if we refresh so far, number must be between 500 and 1000. If we pop this straight in the middle and say 750, it's telling us that it's okay. So let's go and say like a minus 1000, minus 100, for example. Number must be between 500 and 1000. And then we can do the inclusive numbers as well. So if it's 500, it's going to be still okay. Let's say we were to take the equals out of there. Remember, it now doesn't equal, so it's working. So maybe we could put a little message on the end of here saying inclusive. Oh, inclusive. Okay, so now what we're going to do is get rid of this example, and what we're going to do is we're going to have our number. We're going to have a can be 1 equals 2, and we're going to have can be 2 equals 4. So I want this number here to equal either 2 or 4. So how am I going to do this? I'm going to start up an if statement, and inside here we're going to write if, so we're saying if number equals, remember we're saying is equal to, can be 1, or, so remember our double pipe, number equals can be 2. So if it equals either 2 or 4, we're going to echo okay. So let's check that. At the moment it's 500, nothing's displayed. So we can write maybe an else here, echo not okay. So we're saying not okay. Now if this was to equal 2, that's fine. If it was to equal 4, that's fine. If it was to equal, say, 6, that's not fine, because it doesn't equal the things we've specified. Now what we can do is we can change this whole thing around, and I can say not, I can say not. We use this exclamation mark to say not. So if this is not true, or this isn't true, then it's okay. So at the moment this isn't true, or this isn't true, so it is okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so it's 2. So if the number doesn't equal, then it's not true. So refresh, and oh, maybe we need to okay. So yeah, obviously these need to be in brackets, because what we're doing is we're evaluating the statement as a whole. This is a whole here, and this is a whole just here. So let's refresh, and at the moment it's okay. So it doesn't equal, the number doesn't equal 2. It does equal 2, so it's okay. If we were to do 4 and refresh, that's okay as well. But if it's anything else other than 2 and 4, because we've introduced this not, we're saying oh, and at this point we need to make sure this is and. So okay, I'm confused in my own logic. What we're doing is we're saying okay if the number is not 2 and if it's not 4. So take a look at this code and try and sort of understand it, but the logic of it, especially if you speak it in sort of an English, or you say it to yourself, you'll understand it a lot better. But that is basically logical operators.